soldier prayed what is perhaps the most bizarre prayer in all of the Bible. The soldier was Joshua. His prayer, the Bible says, is one that stopped the sun and the moon in the sky. It's a story most Christians say they really believe happened, but that most scientists would say never could have happened. There's a theory, however, that suggests the story could very well have happened exactly as it's described in the Bible. According to the theory, our problem is that we haven't been reading the whole story. We've been missing some of the important background. Here's what the Bible says happened. The Jews were conquering what is now Israel, taking back their homeland from settlers who had moved in while the Jews were enslaved in Egypt. They were camped in the Jordan River Valley when they got a messenger from Gibeon. That's a city that they had made a peace treaty with. The city was under attack by 5 armies. Joshua led his militia on a forced march overnight up into the Judean highlands. They would have climbed 3/4 of a mile above their base camp, and they would have marched about 20 miles into the hills. They arrived at daybreak, probably exhausted. Joshua stood before his men. If he gave them a pep talk, the Bible doesn't report it. All it does is quote a one-line prayer that Joshua prayed. Lord, make the sun stop in the sky over Gibeon, and the moon stand still over Ajalon Valley. The Bible says God answered Joshua's prayer. The sun and moon stopped until Israel defeated its enemies. Most Christians say they read that story like a history book. They say if God could create the sun and the moon and the earth, it wouldn't be any trouble for him to hit the pause button. Some folks even add the urban legend that NASA has found a missing day. NASA can't even find 500 moon rocks brought back by their own Apollo astronauts. They're going to find a missing day? Maybe that's where the rocks went.
Yeah, you're right. We need to be able to find things right away when we need them.
NASA says it doesn't know anything about a missing day or the rocks. Lots of Christians don't read Joshua's story like history, though. They figure that if the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour, that would be 1,600 clicks. If God hit the pause button, everybody got whiplash. Or they got blasted off into outer space at Mach 1.
3, 2, 1.
Here's the theory. It hangs on 2 hooks. First, the prayer is a poem. It qualifies for poetic license, and you get to park it in a special place. Second, the Hebrew word that was used to describe what the sun and moon did is daman. It means stop. In Hebrew, just as in English, the word stop can mean different things, such as stop moving, stop right where you are. It can mean that. But what about stop shining? My men are exhausted from an all-night march. They don't need a hot sun to finish them off. So please, dial it down. If that's what Joshua prayed for, that's exactly what he got. A storm rolled in, clouds blanketed out the sun for a full day, as the Bible tells it. With this storm came hail so large and so intense that the Bible says more people were killed by the hailstones than by the Israelites' swords. There's a problem with the theory. It has to do with something the writer said after quoting the poem. and he didn't say it in poetry. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky and waited to go down for a full day. This anonymous writer seemed to be under the presumption that the sun stopped moving, not that the sun stopped shining. To which Christians might say, maybe the writer got his presumption wrong, or maybe an editor did, or maybe a scribe copying from an old worn-out scroll onto a new scroll added a little footnote about that. And maybe a scribe after him liked that footnote so much, he moved it up into the story. But Christians who read the story more literally say they would prefer to go with the presumption of the Bible writer than with the presumption of a Bible scholar 3,000 years after the fact. Either way, whether the sun stopped in the sky or stopped shining, Joshua got what he asked for: God's help. Many say that's the point of the story. Another Bible writer put it this way: I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me. God's not deaf, and God's not heartless. He hears us, and he helps us.